I think it's going to be quite an intimate session that can be quite impactful. So if you could just, I guess this arrangement is okay. We could just focus on this half of the circle, perhaps. Because I'd like to start because we've got our virtual participants already signed in. So yes, everyone on this side of the room, good morning and thank you so much for being here. So, is there somebody here? Right, so thank you so much for joining us. This is the Grassroots Assembly for the Malaysian Urban Forum, our very first assembly for the forum, so we're very excited. Thank you so much for those who are here. Mostly everyone that was here from the assembly lab, so we really appreciate that you're still here with us. And this is our first grassroots assembly actually for the Malaysia Urban Forum, as you know. And so we're still building our network, we're still building our capacity, but we see the huge value of having grassroots input, being those closest to the ground, working with different communities and having the best understanding of our city. And essentially our goal is to create a better city for everybody. And that's why we need to expand this network of grassroots assembly. And so from the previous lab, I think we came up with a few common grounds, or trying to come up with a few common grounds as the grassroots stakeholders under the big umbrella of sustainable urbanization. So a lot of issues were brought up, including urban poverty, food security, preserving natural resources, natural spaces, orang asli rights, inequality. So these are the sort of themes that kind of converge. And I think the conversation still needs to continue. We're still at the very early stages of our grassroots assembly. And I keep saying ours because it's not mine, it's ours. We're trying to create this together. And so without further ado, I think I will introduce Sri to get us started actually. Oh, maybe we can do a little bit of intro since there's not so many of us. So a little bit of introduction, who's here. So if I'm just going to pass around the mic if that's okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Salam sejahtera. My name is Sri Husnaini Sofjan. I am an advisor to the United Nations, to UN Habitat for their advisory group on gender issues. And I also work with a global grassroots organization called Huairu Commission, which has members in 45 countries and over 120 members around the world. Unfortunately, we don't have a member in Malaysia, so maybe, you know, from here, we can have a member from Malaysia. Thank you very much.
Hello everybody, I'm Jeffrey Pang. I'm from an organization called MyPJ. And what we do is we work among the B40s and we develop caring communities there. We are also a member of a coalition called GBM, Gabungan Bertindak Malaysia, where we work on more structural things as well. Thanks.
Hi, good morning everyone. Selamat pagi. Nama saya Nadia. Saya daripada Persatuan Kesedaran dan Keadilan Iklim Malaysia. So we are mainly youth-based and youth-led as well. And we work in the intersectionalities of climate impacts, involves the marginalized communities, the orang asli, the youth, and also women. So I'm really glad that we are invited to be part of this assembly talk. Thank you.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Kwan. I work with the sick and the poor, operate ambulance services for the poor and also hearse for the poor, funeral services for the poor. And I'm also the chairman of the Malaysian Community Policing Association. We work together very closely with the PDRM in crime prevention and also on the B40 also. Thank you.
Hey, Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. My name is Irfan. I'm from Urban Hijau. We're a permaculture-based urban farm in Kuala Lumpur, in the city. So you're all most welcome to come visit us. Thanks.
Assalamualaikum. I'm also from Urban Hijau, basically working hard towards sustainability with the food being in the core of it. You're all welcome to join Sunday mornings.
Thank you so much for being here. Online participants. Oh no, they're not. They can see us, but we can't see them. Yeah, so they can hear us, and we'll be getting Q&As and any comments online. Yeah. Yeah, because it's not quite like Zoom. This was our first session actually for the day, because the next one starts at 11:30. So this is the very first kickoff. So after this we have So I'd like to invite Sri to give the opening remarks to set the scene for the Grassroots Assembly. So Sri, as she's introduced herself, is very much involved in working with CSOs. She's part of the Horror Commission and also UN Habitat. And yeah, without further ado, Sri, if I could bring you up to the to share.
Sebab orang kamera kat sana. Oh, so dia boleh tengok ya. Okay. So saya ucapkan tahniah kepada Urbanist and also Kementerian Perumahan dan Kerajaan Tempatan kerana menganjurkan Grassroots Assembly ni ya. Grassroots Assembly or grassroots. Who are the grassroots? See, in UN Habitat, the grassroots, I mean, because this is the platform for urbanization, and UN Habitat is the agency within the UN that is responsible for the issues of cities and human settlement. So within them, with UN Habitat, grassroots is defined as people, the urban grassroots are defined as people who live in marginalized, disadvantaged, poor communities. Yeah? And I think for Malaysia, yeah, for the Malaysian Urban Forum to organize and include Grassroots Assembly as one of their program in the Urban Forum is very commendable. Sebab, okay, saya campur-campur lah ya, bahasa Malaysia dan bahasa Inggeris. Sebab di level national, yeah, National Urban Forum ni is encouraged, member states are encouraged to organize National Urban Forum. So Malaysian Urban Forum is one of the National Urban Forums, and it's being organized by the Malaysian government. So even at the world level, so the world level is World Urban Forum. So we had the last World Urban Forum baru-baru ni bulan February in Abu Dhabi. That was the 10th World Urban Forum. At the 10th World Urban Forum, the Grassroots Assembly baru kali kedua. So that means the first Grassroots Assembly, a recognition that penduduk daripada akar umbi, grassroots, urban grassroots, get their voice and space to speak at the global level, baru pertama kali when we had the World Urban Forum in Malaysia in 2018. Yeah. So to have this at the Malaysia, I think, if I remember very well, this is the first Grassroots Assembly at the national level Urban Forum. So, tahniah ya kepada semua, kepada Malaysia. Malaysia boleh. Yeah. And why it's important to include Grassroots Assembly? It's actually to bring and to recognize the contribution, the voice of grassroots. Very important. Sebab ya hampir separuh ataupun at least 40% in all cities penduduknya adalah grassroots. Tinggal di urban poor area or disadvantaged or marginalized area. There are people who penduduk yang struggle. Penduduk macam kata kita punya honorable PM tadi, you know? These are people who actually have to fight for their livelihood. But why are they there? It's because there's a demand for their services. Penduduk-penduduk ni banyaknya, kebanyakannya dalam istilah di Malaysia B40. Penduduk B40. Penduduk B40 ni kebanyakannya bus drivers, work in informal sector, you know, and they are there because there's a demand for their services. They are there also because they seek. Mereka mencari penghidupan yang lebih baik. aspirasi mereka, cita-cita mereka, datang ke bandar, mencari penghidupan untuk yang lebih baik, di mana ada opportunity untuk pendidikan anak-anak mereka, basic services yang mungkin lebih baik. Kita beruntung di Malaysia ni kerana kita sudah melewati atau melepasi satu fasa di mana our urban poor bukan lagi rumah-rumah setinggan. Kita dah, rumah setinggan tu dah macam dah pupus sikit atau dah tak ada kerana semua dipindahkan kepada rumah-rumah pemerintah, kerajaan, the PPRT and all that. But how do we then work with them to make them feel inclusive in building the city? They're not just there as beneficiaries. Grassroots are not beneficiaries. They are contributors, they are agents of change if they are empowered. So how do we empower them? How do we work with them? And you are part, some of you, I would like to see in the future, hopefully, because ini pertama kali, and macam Yasmin kata tadi, kita baru mengembangkan, dalam proses mengembangkan network grassroots organisation and recognizing them. Kita ada community, dasar community negara, community policy. Dasar tu kalau saya melihat daripada segi kritikal, agak kritikal, ataupun mengkritik sedikit, kita ucapkan tahniah kepada kerajaan kerana sudah ada dasar komuniti, tapi dasar komuniti kita masih agak sempit melihat pada kontribusi ahli komuniti of grassroots untuk maintenance PPRT and all that. And the fact that can actually contribute to the development of the cities. Kita ada cita-cita sustainable cities 2030. Apa visi kita? Apa visi penduduk grassroots, the grassroots, urban grassroots? Visi mereka sustainable nation 2030. Mungkin lepas ni salah satu daripada action adalah buat mapping. Mana penduduk-penduduk tu? How active are they in terms of meeting, understanding rules and regulation that actually govern them? How do they feedback to those rules and regulation and policies? Bila nak buat sesuatu, adakah mereka diberi peluang untuk memberi pendapat dan menjadi partner dalam development? So they are just not beneficiaries, they should be a partner in development. Rakan, bukannya just duduk and tick the box that saya dah out PPRT ni. Bukan, tapi kita nak apa yang mereka perlukan? Sebab kadang-kadang policy makers ingat mereka perlukan dewan, tapi mungkin mereka tak perlukan dewan tu lagi. Mungkin mereka perlukan satu taman permainan untuk kanak-kanak, kerana rumah-rumah PRT agak sempit umpamanya. So ada discussion, and so that resource allocation, policy development are matched between top down and bottom up. So sedikit introduction proses ni. Di pre-lab event untuk Grassroots Assembly telah identify 5 issues, saya rasa. Saya tidak participate dalam Grassroots Lab tu, tapi saya lihat ada 5 isu yang diutarakan. Pertama is resource and finance, kedua policy enforcement, ketiga awareness, keempat environment and physical infrastructure, and kelima collaboration. So I wouldn't say just stop at collaboration, because collaboration is very loose. I would say partnership, because partnership adalah recognition of an equal recognition and in terms of implementing something, in terms of doing something. Collaboration itu macam loose sikit, macam collaboration macam tidak tidak ada visi sangat. Kalau partnership, kita ada visi sikit, ya. Saya rasa saudari akan ada seorang yang akan Nadia akan bagi highlight untuk highlight tentang the details of that grassroots lab. And I see that also because this is the first one, and next year, tahun depan, ada World Urban Forum 11 ke-11, and akan diadakan di Poland. Kita tak tahu sama ada it will be a physical participation in person ataupun also a hybrid one, in person and also virtual. But I hope that participants from this grassroots will be participating there. And we will have more than just the participant from this grassroots, but we will have, community leaders speaking for themselves in that. Yeah, we tried to, but we didn't have resources this year. I mean, when we had the World Urban Forum 10 at in Abu Dhabi earlier this year, I hope there'll be mobilization and also, urbanis bila dia buat budget untuk tahun depan, dia masukkan budget untuk bawa and make sure ada participant daripada grassroots and not just local government and the others. And grassroots is one of the 15 stakeholders for the implementation of the new urban agenda. And we have to implement the new urban agenda to achieve the SDG. Yeah, the SDG has 17 goals, the urban agenda has targets, and so it's like the blueprint on how to achieve the SDG from the sustainable cities and human settlement perspective. So with that, I hope we can start the discussion. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sri. It's an honor and pleasure to have you here. I think everyone will be able to learn so much from Sri today. It's a real privilege. I'd now like to pass on to Nadia, who will be sharing a little bit of the lab findings.
Saya duduk dekat sini je lah sebab semua orang around us anyways. So terima kasih kepada Urbanis sebab mengundang saya untuk represent antara komiti-komiti yang tidak dapat hadir pada hari ini. Dan kalau tak silap saya 2-3 minggu yang lalu kita telah pun melakukan aktiviti pre-stakeholder lab untuk mengenal pasti, to identify, saya pun mix jugalah BM English, to identify apakah tema-tema, what are the themes that what are the themes, what are the challenges that grassroots communities are having, especially right now during the COVID-19 situation, pandemic. So the first theme is resource and finance. So a lot of groups yang datang pada hari tersebut telah mengatakan there's a lack of avenue for them to raise funds, because before this they will always have that kind of runs ataupun fundraising events, but during COVID-19 this was not what you can't actually do anything, anything that is physical. So there was this barrier of getting those kind of funds from public. And we also talk about the capacity building in terms of how communities, how grassroots write proposals, how do they coordinate themselves. All these organizational skills are not there. I can attest to that because I do a lot of workshops to young groups who wants to mobilize for climate impacts, for climate action, and we lack that kind of understanding, that kind of resources. It's not being available to us, and we hope these are the kind of initiative that will be put forward in this kind of forum. And there's point number 2, which is access to basic services. This is having a platform for civic space, civil society to speak and share, in my point of view, without any intimidation or harassment, because such safe spaces are scarce here in Malaysia. We know that even in online spaces, this does not, we don't have those kind of spaces. So having such a platform could, create a safe environment for, public activists, NGOs, social enterprises to come and speak together and co-create and participate together actively without having any fear to do so. Yes. And moving on to the third theme, which is policy and enforcement. So these are, should I pause or? Okay, I'll just go on. Okay, so policy and enforcement. So these are the main aim of most grassroots organizations, right? We want to change. We want policies to include us. We want policies to address the kind of problems that we are having. And I could say that one of the main issues that's being highlighted was how to bring policymakers to understand the voices from communities, partly because when it comes to stakeholder meetings, we all have different kind of agendas, different influences, different powers to influence, and interest as well, and experience. And coming from different kind of background of understanding, this could be a problem in terms of power dynamics. And how do we address that? And I can attest to that because I'm also, sometimes when I go to stakeholder meetings, I do not have the proper, the effective time to address my issues properly, and partly because there's a lack of experience in there. So how do we teach people also how to express themselves effectively? And second, when we talk about different people coming to the table, we also speak about non-formal status, non-citizens. For example, they have legal restrictions. Most of invitations to come to stakeholder meetings always involves citizens, but not to non-citizens. So we talk about migrants. They are also the main, people that lives in urban areas. We cannot isolate them. We need to hear their voices as well. So how do we include them in this? The fourth theme is a collaboration. So Sri has spoken about community mapping and documentation. This is really important because grassroots, in order to actively participate, it would be really great if we can provide information from our communities ourselves. For example, I'll speak about climate change a bit because climate impacts are not homogeneous, right? So it impacts different communities differently because communities have different needs. So solutions have to cater to that different needs. So therefore, communities have to start to document impacts and present this to the policymakers. And how do we go around that? How do we teach communities to document and map this kind of impacts, and how to mitigate, how to adapt, for example? And it also aid in cross-sectoral collaborations between government, private, and public to be more fluid. So the fifth one is awareness. So I read a lot of policy papers as well. It's part of my background. And awareness is one of the main criteria for the lack of awareness is one of the main criteria for policy failures. Not having the awareness can render a policy to fail. So one of the main issues that's been highlighted here is language barrier. So most of the information that's been passed down, top down, are not inclusive. So we always have it in English, especially in urban areas. But what about in Bahasa Melayu? What about in Chinese? And also language of migrants as well. So we need to include that, and we have seen this actually happen during COVID-19. COVID-19 is it's a pandemic, but it's a great opportunity for us to see where we are, where the structures, the gap within the structures that does not help us in the past, and now we have to move in the new normal, and how do we include this? How do we address this? So these are some of the really important points that are being raised during the stakeholder lab meeting prior to this assembly. So I just wanted to say this assembly is really critical. It's basically the foundation, you know, the building foundation to public consultation actively. And this has been seen in many countries. For example, we have the Citizens' Assembly in the UK, where all the decision making is legally binding towards the end. And we would, I don't know, personally, I would like that to happen. But this is the first step, and this is definitely a really critical step for urbanists to take. So thank you very much. Yeah, passing over the floor to Sri.
Thank you so much, Nadia. So Nadia was just sharing findings from our grassroots lab on the input from the grassroots that attended in terms of their needs towards the communities that they work with and their cause. So we're also very lucky to have the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Housing and Local Government with us today, YB Datuk Sri Dr. Haji Ismail. Thank you so much for being here and being part of this Grassroots Assembly. I'd like to invite you to give a short remarks to the floor, please. Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Salam sejahtera dan salam prihatin. Saya bahagia Dr. Muhammad Rizal Osman, Ketua Pegawai Operasi Urban Malaysia selaku penganjur program Malaysia Urban Forum 2020 MUF2020, para delegasi, para tetamu kehormat, para perwakilan daripada setiap komuniti grassroots ni kita panggil masyarakat dasar. Tapi you all ni bukan daripada grassroots. Ini orang punya level of thinking yang dah tinggi dah. I thought ada daripada JKK, daripada Pengulu, daripada ahli majlis dan sebagainya. Tapi banyakkan daripada tuan-tuan dan perempuan ni adalah pemikir-pemikir yang dia punya level of thinking tu dah quite high. Mungkin dah banyak persidangan di peringkat antarabangsa dan sebagainya. I will deliver my speech ini dalam bahasa because saya kira kalangan peserta adalah terdiri daripada berbagai lapisan masyarakat, termasuk para pegawai Kementerian Jabatan, rakan-rakan media, datuk tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian. Saya nak beri kesempatan mengucapkan tahniah, terima kasih kepada our Prime Minister Tan Sri Mahyudin Yassin dan our Minister Puan Zuraida di atas komitmen bersama dengan Bernice yang menganjurkan program ini yang cukup berguna kepada kita, terutamanya bagi masyarakat bandar ataupun bandaraya, basis bandaran dan juga PBT dan sebagainya. Pertama, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada penganjur kerana menjemput saya untuk memberikan ucap pertama pada sesi Grassroots Assembly di Malaysia Urban Forum 2020 yang bermula pada hari ini. Tuan-tuan dan puan sekalian, kita semua adalah manusia dan kita semua adalah masyarakat sosial, makhluk sosial, di mana kita perlu hidup, tidak boleh hidup bersendirian, dan kita perlu hidup bersama orang lain. Saya ingat dalam dewan ini tidak ada seorang daripada kita yang boleh hidup bersendirian. Kita ada peranan masing-masing. Jadi kita perlukan orang lain, termasuklah dalam menjaga kebersihan alam sekitar dan sebagainya. Saya percaya sesi Grassroots Assembly pada hari ini memberikan ruang dan platform kepada setiap komuniti grassroots di Malaysia, terutama kepada golongan B40, golongan bawahan pendapatan rendah dan sebagainya, yang tinggal dalam kawasan bandar untuk mengutarakan cabaran dan beban hidup mungkin yang mereka hadapi. Selain itu, mereka dapat membawa isu bagi setiap komuniti ke arena yang dapat didengari oleh pihak kerajaan, terutamanya pihak berkuasa tempatan, agensi khusus sektor swasta maupun individu-individu yang mempunyai hasrat yang sama. Malahan arena ini adalah sangat bertepatan untuk kita membincangkan cara penyelesaian bagi setiap isu berbangkit dengan menggabungkan inisiatif top down and bottom up. Mana mana atas bawah, tidak daripada atas saja ke bawah, ya. Kita hendakkan pandangan idea yang baik daripada atas. At the same time, kita hendakkan juga mungkin pandangan dan keluhan ataupun show yang boleh datang daripada grassroots masyarakat bawahan, seperti mana yang saya sebutkan tadi. Secara lebih inklusif dalam menggubal polisi dan hala tuju kerajaan yang akan seiring dengan hasrat agenda pembangunan mampan atau Sustainable Development Agenda 2030, leave not one behind, mana tak ada orang yang akan tertinggal di belakang. Semua orang kita nak libatkan, dan kita tak nak ada masyarakat kita yang tertinggal dalam arus pembangunan dan juga apa juga yang kita bangunkan di negara kita ini. Datuk, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian, dasar komuniti negara yang digariskan oleh Kementerian Perumahan dan Kerjaan Tempatan sememangnya telah dirangka bagi mendaya upaya atau empowerment komuniti di kawasan perumahan awam bandar khususnya, bagi mewujudkan persekitaran yang berkualiti, memperkasakan komuniti serta menggalakkan penglibatan komuniti dalam perancangan dan pembangunan setempat. Sebab itulah setakat ini mungkin kita banyak perancangan sama ada pembangunan, penyelesaian masalah setempat, kebersihan dan sebagainya datang daripada top, daripada management, pengurusan atasan, termasuk mungkin di kalangan tuan-tuan dan puan-puan sekalian daripada Majlis Perbendaharaan, Bandaraya, Dewan Bandaraya, PPT dan sebagainya. Tetapi tidak cukup lagi untuk penglibatan mungkin bagi masyarakat pengguna kita bawahan, terutamanya pemilik rumah dan sebagainya, dan terutamanya bagi mereka yang di bawah kategori B40 ini. Sebab itulah kita nakkan supaya kesedaran ini ada bukan saja di kalangan kita sebagai pentadbir, pengurus dan yang terlibat dengan PBT, tetapi kita nak supaya masyarakat umum juga bersama-sama dengan kita pembangunan kelestarian kawasan bandar, perumahan dan juga menjaga kebersihan. Hal ini sekaligus akan memupuk kerjasama strategi antara komuniti dengan sektor awam, swasta, NGO, badan-badan sukarela bagi membangunkan komuniti selain dapat melahirkan pemimpin di kalangan komuniti untuk bersama kerajaan dalam menangani isu sosial dan ekonomi. Saya baru masuk di Kementerian Perumahan, dan bila kita pergi ke perumahan-perumahan PPR dan sebagainya, kita dapati banyak juga persoalan-persoalan hidup masyarakat ini yang perlu kita tangani. Walaupun kita ada jawatan kuasa penduduk setempat, kita ada what we call management team, pengurusan dalam kawasan-kawasan perumahan, tapi kadang-kadang ada tidak ketemuan antara dua organisasi badan ini. Mungkin pengurusan kata persatuan penduduk tidak jalan dengan baik, dan kadang-kadang persatuan penduduk menyalahkan pengurusan dan berbagai lagi. Jadi benda ini perlu kita selesaikan supaya kita semua penduduk, kesatuan penduduk di situ yang dibentuk ataupun organisasi yang dibentuk, kalau boleh seiring berjalan untuk menyelesaikan masalah-masalah yang mereka hadapi. Bukan saja masalah kebersihan, bahkan masalah sosial dan juga ekonomi. Termasuk sekarang ni kita adakan urban farming umpamanya. pertanian di bandar, di kawasan-kawasan perumahan yang cukup mendatangkan faedah pada penghuni-penghuni atau penduduk di situ, dari segi time management, pengurusan masanya, dari segi menjana pendapatan kepada mereka sendiri. Antara perkara yang dipandang berat oleh kementerian ini adalah melibatkan isu infrastruktur kemudahan asas di kawasan perumahan dan penyelenggaraan. Kita ada infra yang cukup baik, tetapi infra ini kalau tidak dijaga, tidak diselenggara dengan baik, dia akan mendatangkan juga kesulitan kepada penduduk. Begitu juga masalah kebersihan. Kita tidak mahu adanya mentaliti penduduk mengatakan bahawa saya boleh buat sampah kerana sampah ini akan dikutip oleh pekerja-pekerja PBT. Ini suatu mentaliti yang harus kita betulkan. Yang penting ialah bagaimana supaya mereka bersikap mempunyai pemikiran bahawa sampah ini tanggungjawab saya. Peringkat awal supaya saya tidak membuang sampah. Dan sudah itulah tak secara langsung pengurusan pekerja-pekerja PBT akan lebih ringan dan kita tidak berhadapan dengan masalah sampah yang boleh menjejaskan kesihatan kita dan sebagainya. Juga dari konteks alam sekitar dan kesihatan, keselamatan, pendidikan, dalam masa yang sama kita boleh mungkin organize apakah bentuk training, latihan ataupun pendidikan yang boleh kita sampaikan kepada anak-anak kita dengan kerjasama masyarakat setempat. Begitu juga mungkin dari segi kemahiran, keprihatinan terhadap kanak-kanak, warga emas, orang kurang upaya, wanita, ibu tunggal dan daif, keusahawanan dan perniagaan sosial dalam perkhidmatan sosial serta sukan demokrasi. Mana berbagai apa juga aspek hidup dalam masyarakat di kawasan itu boleh diuruskan bersama. Kita nak supaya collective responsibility, tanggungjawab bersama, bukan saja di kementerian, pada PBT, bahkan di penghuni rumah, bahkan seluruh masyarakat di mana mereka berada mempunyai kesedaran bersama dalam jalan tanggungjawab yang saya sebutkan tadi. Datuk, tuan-tuan dan puan sekalian, saya percaya melalui platform seperti ini kita dapat melahirkan kepimpinan komuniti yang berpengetahuan serta memperkasa dan mendaya upaya ahli komuniti lain untuk sama-sama meningkatkan kualiti hidup komuniti secara holistik bagi mencapai persekitaran kehidupan yang berdaya, huni dan mampan. Saya sepakat dari maknanya kalau kita mempunyai sense of responsibility, collective responsibility, tidak ada masalah yang tak boleh kita atasi. Tapi kalau sebahagian saja yang punya kesedaran ini, manakala sebahagian lain mereka fikir ini peranan orang, tanggungjawab orang lain, sebab itulah kerja atau masalah yang kita hadapi di kawasan setempat tidak akan selesai kita laksanakan. Saya berharap agar sesi ini dapat mengupas dengan baik permasalahan dan hala tuju serta sentiasa diteruskan pada masa akan datang supaya memberi manfaat kepada semua pihak yang turut serta. Cuma bagi pihak Rusia, saya tak tahu, mungkin doktor boleh lihat, biasanya kalau national, international level punya foreign discussion ni melibatkan orang-orang yang mempunyai punya level of thinking ni dah tinggi, tidak melibatkan mungkin leadership kepimpinan di bawah, di peringkat majlis bandaran, masjid tempatan dan sebagainya. Jadi mereka ni tidak expose kepada pemikiran yang mungkin sebahagian daripada tuan-tuan bawa. Jadi saya nak mencadangkan bagaimana supaya apa yang dibincangkan di sini kalau boleh kita deliver, kita turunkan ke bawah. Hasil-hasil finding ataupun hasil-hasil yang diperoleh melalui discussion yang diadakan di kalangan tuan-tuan dan perempuan yang mempunyai exposure yang cukup luas, bukan saja di peringkat nasional, bahkan mungkin mereka antarabangsa, dapat kita turunkan bawah. Because saya daripada orang kampung, orang luar bandar, jadi saya berhadapan dengan penduduk luar bandar, pinggiran bandar dan sebagainya yang tidak mempunyai level of thinking seperti mana yang daripada tuan-tuan, seperti yang daripada peserta kita pada pagi ini yang cukup saya kira mempunyai pengalaman uh, masuklah kalau kita lihat dari segi NGO-nya Uncle Kentang, Uncle Kentang saya tengok dalam TV, dalam surat khabar bagaimana Uncle Kentang dan puan juga yang juga banyak berperanan dalam menggerakkan kerja-kerja sosial dalam masyarakat dan sebagainya. Jadi saya harap mungkin universiti dapat melihat bagaimana kita boleh deliver ataupun kita boleh sampaikan penemuan-penemuan atau finding yang kita dapat melalui discussion ini kepada grassroots yang kita anggap grassroots. Bagi saya macam tuan-tuan yang ada ni nak kata grassroots, agak bukan grassroots sangat ni dah sikit tinggi. Yang grassroots saya kira kumpulan masyarakat bawahan B40 yang berpantang rendah, yang mungkin ibu tunggal, warga emas dan sebagainya di kawasan-kawasan pinggir bandar yang boleh kita libatkan. Jadi saya tidak bercadang untuk bercakap panjang dan saya kira ini satu forum yang cukup baik untuk kita adakan dan saya berharap tuan-tuan dan puan sekalian dapat come up dengan idea-idea dan juga poin-poin ataupun pemikiran, pengalaman-pengalaman yang ada supaya kita dapat sampaikan kepada kumpulan bawahan grassroots kita yang sebenarnya yang mungkin tak terlibat bersama dengan kita pada pagi ini. Jadi syabas dan tahniah kepada kementerian, kepada dan juga kepada semua pihak yang telah menjalankan, terlibat dengan program yang kita adakan pada 28, 29 dan 30 hari bulan ini. Jadi saya itu sajalah. Terima kasih dan tahniah kepada tuan-tuan yang berbahagian. Saya ucapkan selamat bersidang untuk semua ahli komuniti dan grassroots pada hari ini. Sekian, wabillahi taufik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you so much, YB Dr. Sri Dr. For that remarks. We're really appreciative that KBKT is so supportive of this event, and I know KBKT is a big supporter of grassroots. And inshallah, next session hopefully we'll have more grassroots members. I think a lot of people here represent the grassroots. But anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Sri Dr. I think he has another session to go to. Is that right? Yeah. Thank you so much. So for the next session, I'd like to invite Ilyas, who everyone knows, I'm sure, very well. So Ilyas has been working really hard behind the scenes, getting us all together. Just say goodbye. So yeah, I'd like to pass on the events to Ilyas, who has been working very hard behind the scenes to get us all together and to take us to the three thematic discussions, which will be led by Ilyas and moderated by Sri, right? So without further ado, Ilyas, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Yasmin. Actually, I'm very nervous about this session because this is the first Grassroots Assembly for me and also for Urbanists and also for Malaysia. So the amount of experience that I have is not tak banyak lah. Okay. So the way we go for this discussion is that we will have three thematic discussion. The first theme is grassroots community and organization contributing to sustainable development. So on the first thematic, we will discuss on how grassroots effort will help Malaysia to achieve sustainable development. Will help to achieve the nation's sustainable development. And then the second theme is access to sustainable finance, resources, and capacity building. So during the pre-event punya lab, kita dah identify and then the issue of resource capacity finance and resource, finance and capacity building is one of the most important issue to be noted, and how we want to empower our community leader in the grassroots level, ketua kampung, ketua persatuan penduduk, and then the third one is grassroots leadership and collaboration. For the third team, grassroots leadership and collaboration, Mr. Jeffrey will help me with the team. So we will go. It's a round table punya dia lah. The mic is open to everyone to voice out lah on. Okay, I pass to Yasmin first. Sorry.
I think there's a few newcomers that joined us halfway, so we'd like to make this an inclusive roundtable discussion as potentially the Grassroots Assembly. I think everyone here that's been with us in the lab, we really stay as strong partners. And so those who, if you're possible to either join us at the front row of the circle first, and I'm going to pass around the mics to introduce yourselves so that we're all familiar with each other before we start the thematics, if that's okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, good morning. I'm Sumita, representing the Malaysian Association for the Blind.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I'm Siti Huraiza from Malaysian Association for the Blind.
Hi everyone, my name is Amir Akim. We three from UiTM Sri Iskandar, we're just a student to learn about this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wan Rauda. I'm from UiTM also.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ahmad Shahmi. I'm from UiTM also. We are three students faculty from architecture, surveying and planning. Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum, good morning. Almost afternoon. I'm Hairia. I belong to the elderly group, and I have worked with the PPR and B40 groups at the grassroots level. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, saya Nuraini binti Ruslan yang di Pertua Majlis Perbandaran Subang Jaya. Mewakili semua rakyat di Subang Jaya.
Yes. Assalamualaikum, saya Fatin Farhana, mewakili Persatuan Penduduk Seksyen 6 Shah Alam.
Nama Muhammad Kashfi, mewakili Persatuan Lestari Alam.
Okay, rasa semua dah perkenalkan diri. Okay. Tanpa membuang masa, I think we should get into the first punya team lah, which is grassroots community and organisation contributing to sustainable development. Iaitu macam mana kita nak discuss macam mana macam saya cakap tadi lah, macam mana masyarakat di peringkat akar umbi dapat menyumbang kepada pembangunan mampan negara lah, dapat menyumbang kepada kita punya sustainable development dari peringkat nasional lah. So the question is, how can organized community-based or grassroots-led groups and organizations work together to contribute to the sustainable development? And what are the role of the grassroots stakeholders in ensuring inclusive organization? So anyone want to answer the question?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's an interesting question. How can organized community-based grassroots-led groups and organizations work together to contribute sustainable development? I think one of the important things about working with the B40 groups and communities is at the end of what we're trying to do is the unity. We find that there is quite a lot of problems with unity within B40 communities. What is happening is there are three main organizations, which is the Resident Association under ROS, then they have got the Rukun Tetangga under JP9, and you have got the JMB, which is the building management. There is always a leadership conflict within there, and $6,000 per year is a big amount for you to fight for leadership. And what happens is the leaders are always people that are vocal, and sometimes they have got their own agenda. So because of that, trying to get this leadership position, it creates a lot of different groupings inside. And this is something that we don't solve, because you don't know how to solve it. But a core problem before we can even talk of a sustainable community. So how do you identify the good leaders? So we have seen some communities whereby you have the JMB running it, and 90% of them don't know who they are. They just carry on what they are doing. In other words, the people are not capacity built to recognize good leaders. At the same time, there is also another important thing that we need to connect all the dots together. So how does it happen that there's so much disunity there? So you can see that sometimes when you have election AGM, say for KRT or Persatuan, you'll find that it starts off, then suddenly one big group will come in and dispose of a good leader. Because what is most important is, once you've got some money in the bank account, this will happen. So in general, we mustn't underplay the difficulty of community politics, community struggle and power. So this is messy. A lot of people don't get into it. But in terms of responsibility-wise, JP9 would have a good structure to help with resolution of internal conflicts. And the internal conflicts now are mainly to do with racial and religion. We have got one particular area where they work very happily together, and when the Seafield temple incident happened, all the Malay community members resigned from the KRT. So from then on, they started forming their own racial NGOs and all. So these are things that are very destructive, and it affects the NGOs working. So I think NGOs working inside B40 have to recognize that there is this problem, and all the other players like BBT and all those have got a role to play to make sure that it doesn't happen. The commissioner of buildings is very important to make sure that proper accounting is done, is submitted, so that people are aware. You have to empower the people and not just the leaders there. Then they can be a check and balance. All right? So we have seen some of the JMBs who haven't submitted 6 years of accounts. the people are fighting among themselves. Okay, so I think that's one thing. The other thing is a silo mentality. Even NGOs go in and say, I'm for environment, I'm for the ladies, I'm for gender. And every one of us work in silo. So there is no synergy that is coming in together. So we would have to accept a new kind of NGO called a facilitating NGO. A facilitating NGO is one who goes in with facilitating expertise. That means once you go in, you tarik all the other NGOs in to help. No? But there is a certain way of working together. No, the NGOs coming in must recognize that I'm a contributing NGO and you are a facilitating NGO. But we have experiences where a contributing NGO comes in and say, hey, I know good enough of this community, you know. I can also be a facilitating NGO. And once you get two facilitating NGO, then there's a conflict there, I think. So not only community conflicts, NGO themselves must know how to work together and not get into conflict. So here we get a thing of a caring community. If the NGOs are more organized, we play our role well, then the people can start. So sometimes we don't have a normal culture. What are we aiming for? So I think one of the themes that we have is a caring community is safe. Everybody thought of safety, very important. The next one we call is harmonious and livable. Harmony is something that we feel critical for unity and for the community to work together. But once we say livable, we actually want to drag in all the 17 SDG goals, all right? And that would help to frame how we can work inside there. So there is a connection between the community, the NGOs. The NGOs are supposed to build up the capacity so that they will begin to work closely with the local council. And the local council will be able to help to facilitate the well-being of the place. So I think the local council, I will talk a bit more in the second question. The first question actually relates more to building up a caring community. So I think what we need now is also, as the NGOs go in, to understand the role that we play. We have to recognize that what we are contributing is just one part of the perspective of the diamond, all right? So what we want to know is we have to go in recognizing that the problems inside B40 is multidimensional. It needs a lot of different expertise to solve that, and we are providing one of the expertise. Another thing is multi-sectorial. We have been working very closely with some corporates, and they have been a tremendous help. But they were more help when they realized what is ad hoc CSR and what is strategic as CSR. So when they begin to understand that, we have the capacity builder companies as well. And finally, it's also intergenerational. You can see some NGOs having very old people, all right? Where are the young people? No? While the young people will also have their own NGOs, but it would be good if it's intergenerational, where the experience of the older NGOs is passed on, the baton is passed on to the younger one who have got the energy. So we have to look at all this in overall holistic perspective, and then I think we can play a very much better role in working together to contribute to sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey. Yeah, I kind of agree because you said that we have a lot of expertise and a lot of NGO doing different things, and we do need facilitator, someone who can, someone yang boleh untuk apa? How do you say that? To facilitate this group kan, untuk to facilitate this group. Sorry. Sorry ya. Ada siapa-siapa yang want to respond to the question tak? Macam mana grassroots community dia boleh bekerjasama untuk contribute to the sustainable development.
Okay, saya Siti Huraizah dari Persatuan Bagi Orang Buta Malaysia. So, saya rasa kalau kita nak sustainable dalam development ni, memang kena ada, saya agree dengan Mr. Jeffrey tadi, kita kena ada satu pihak yang organize supaya kita bergerak dalam satu seia sekata lah. So macam yang pengalaman saya lah, bagi saya apa yang penting adalah local council tu sendiri. Bermula dari, saya rasa benda ni perlu bermula dari pihak atasan seperti kementerian, kemudian turun kepada PBT dan local council tu sendiri, sebab mereka ni yang bila kita bercakap pasal local council ni, dia adalah rapat dengan persatuan penduduk dan juga rukun tetangga berkenaan, dan saya rasa mereka lah yang boleh menyatu padukan. Sebagai contoh macam di Breedfield, kita ada banyak NGO dan kita ada bukan sekadar NGO, kita ada banyak juga persatuan penduduk dan sebagainya. Tetapi apabila PBT di tempat tersebut ingin melakukan sesuatu orang kata development ataupun ingin menguatkuasakan something, membincangkan sesuatu isu tentang penduduk setempat berkenaan dengan bandar berkenaan, jadi rukun tetangga yang, bagi saya rukun tetangga itulah yang akan menjadi main, di mana dialah yang akan menyatu padukan kesemua suara di tempat tersebut untuk disampaikan kepada mereka yang bertanggungjawab. Dan saya rasa local council tu juga ataupun rukun tetangga tu juga perlu ada networking yang bagus, sama ada dengan PBT, dengan kementerian ataupun dengan mereka-mereka yang bertanggungjawab seperti polis, bomber, Indah Water, Alam Flora. Bila ada kesemua orang-orang penting di dalam sesuatu kumpulan itu yang support kumpulan tu, maka suara-suara yang telah ada dalam suatu kumpulan tersebut seperti NGO, Kesatuan Penduduk dan macam yang kita tahu, Kesatuan Penduduk ni lain, Kesatuan Penduduk lain dia punya keperluan, lain NGO lain keperluan dia. Jadi mereka lah yang akan menyuarakan keperluan masing-masing, dan kemudian rukun tetangga tersebutlah yang akan menggabungkan semua keperluan itu yang akan disampaikan kepada pihak berwajib, dan mereka akan mengambil tindakan yang sewajarnya mengikut keperluan penduduk setempat. Itu saja.
Okay, saya setuju juga dengan Puan yang bisa tadi. Okay, sebelum saya ulas lanjut, saya nak berkongsi sedikitlah berkenaan dengan saya punya komuniti saya. Okay, so far kami sudah ada penglibatan dengan bomber community, kombi itu daripada Kementerian Kesihatan Daerah Petaling. Kami banyak NGO yang terlibat bersama. So, apa yang saya boleh rumuskan, sebenarnya semua orang ada peranan masing-masing. Komuniti, NGO, semua ada peranan masing-masing. Tak semua komuniti yang jadi leader ni, dia ada pendedahan berkenaan dengan dana, NGO ni semua dia tak ada pendedahan. That's why kadang-kadang bila AGM ke dan sebagainya, diorang akan macam tak nak lah. So bila semua tolak, no choice, pakai tangkap muat je. Itu masalahnya. Jadi most important is pendedahan lah. Pendedahan maklumat itu pentingnya pihak-pihak NGO ataupun satu organisasi yang mana dia boleh, macam contoh Persatuan Lestari Alam, dia datang ke komuniti kami, dia bagi pendedahan. Okay, kalau you perlukan kebun punya dana, pergi minta dekat mana. You perlukan dana untuk keselamatan, pergi ke mana. So, sometimes NGO ni sendiri kena bagi pendedahan kepada komuniti. Sebab GMB sendiri pun, dia tak tahu bomba komuniti tu apa, kombi tu apa. So, yang banyak kena pergi keluar tempat untuk engagement one each other lah. So, dua-dua penting lah. Komuniti ada peranan dia, NGO ada peranan dia, PBT ada peranan dia. So, apa yang penting kena sama-sama rajin turun padang lah. Itu je.
Ada sesiapa lagi yang nak respond to the question, macam mana macam mana community and organisation work together?
Okay, that's last chapter. Okay, macam kita orang mostly work closely with communities, but we don't go against them. We go with the flow with them. So we empower them to do much better things. Bagi kita macam, what your vision, apa you nak, and we connect the dots, and we bagi apa yang orang perlu instead of kita rasa dia perlu ni, tapi yang cara kita orang, apa korang perlu, kita akan try dapatkan. Dengan tu hopefully you akan lebih sustainable lah. Okay, macam pada nombor 2 is basically community sustainability. Macam actually there's a lot of PBTs that is doing a great job. Macam tadi Hajan Nuraini is from Subang Jaya, right? So dia ada konsep of apartment angkat. So this when dia punya jabatan community goes to each apartment angkat, engage them, and kena share apa diorang perlu, apa masalah orang. So with the PPT help from the top bottom approach, it defeat all these community issues and everything lah. So macam tu je kot.
I just want to emphasize your point about MPSJ. When MPSJ allocate a councillor to look after one block, it actually forces the councillor to understand the problems faced by the B40 and better policies are. So it's an excellent institutionalizing of a procedure that will help in our cause of partnership.
So sometimes they have a huge miscommunication between MPPs and PBTs. So sometimes they have this liking and disliking. So they don't communicate sometimes. Sometimes the PBTs just push out the MPPs and they go direct to the communities. That is another bridge we need to build because basically we don't want to push too much of the political agenda or anything. It's always back about the people, what the people need. Political come afterwards.
From my own experience, right, I'm not political, I'm a professional, but when you go down to the grassroots, you really have to ask the community, what are their priorities, or what is that particular group's priority in their own environment, okay? If they talk about income, say, sorry, you can't help increase the income, right? But in other ways, you can. So there were two groups that Persatuan Lestari, of which I'm just appointed advisor. We've done two projects. One was the PPR Sri Kepong, Pekan Kepong. And another one was another project. The Pekan Kepong, we did a recycling project. They want to clean up the area. There's just so much rubbish, so we decided, okay, let's do something. And then it's all, facilitating by not telling them really what to do, but what is possible to be done, and then getting partners to come in, like SW Corp, we've got the other organizations to come, especially private sector, to buy the recyclables, things like that. So we connect the dots, like what you said, Dr. Jeff. Another project we did was, again, me asking the local community, what is it that you want? What would be something that you like to do, but you find it quite impossible? So we asked Persatuan Penduduk, and this happens to be led mainly by women. And they said they want keceriaan. Their housing area has not been painted for so long, for many, many years, so they want it to be brightened up for the forthcoming Hari Raya. So we said, okay, let's do a project of painting murals, all right? Then it's just facilitating them and connecting and getting the people who provide the paints, the utensils, the paraphernalia, and let them do it themselves. Even designing and all that. Even with Pekan Kepong, so they do it themselves. And over a few months, it's become so successful that, there are more and more people involved, right, with Pekan Kepong. They even, collect all the data, how much and what type of recyclables they have collected, So this, and they get points, from SW Corp, some rewards. So in a way, it will create a lot of other impact, very, very impactful project. Similarly with PPR Sri Pantai, where the murals became so successful that they have been given, how to say, sponsorships by a company that come in and volunteered to actually teach the children, local community children, English lessons. And now they're doing online. So it has generated a lot of interest. And not only that, but other PPR now want the same thing, you see. So these are the kind of, so NGOs are there, just firstly to recognize who are the local leaders, just asking first, indirectly perhaps, or unofficially, okay, just to approach and say, we are here to help, we are here to assist, what do you want? And what can we do for you? And I think this is the best approach for getting communities to work towards sustainability. It doesn't matter their factions, lah. You just get one, and once the work is done successfully, the others, there'll be peace and harmony. They say, oh yeah, it's working well for all of us, so let's support it, you know?
I'd like to add to that, primarily because if anyone does not know me, I'm Nadia from Climate Action Malaysia. We are a youth group doing climate impacts, intersectionalities issues, and we mobilize orang asli, women and youth. So when you talk about what NGOs should do, I think we have seen a lot of NGOs that come into orang asli villages, for example. It's kind of like touch and go. Datang and then leave. And then you made the community rely so much on you. And then towards the end, the structure itself will fall. So this is some of the quite common trends that we see. And that is happening among, you know, volunteerism and stuff like that. So we want this to be addressed as well. And we work primarily with a lot of, you know, rural areas, not entirely urban, although some of the orang asli that we work with are living in urban areas, for example, in Kuala Langat. And they have been, you know, how do we impart this knowledge to them without imposing our views, our own world views? That is really important because they have also something to contribute as well, right? So how do we, you know, balance that out without making them feel like they are children? You know, this has been, we have documented this a lot. That's the reason why orang asli, most orang asli villages, they don't want outsiders to come in because of this. They don't want to be treated as children. And I think, you know, during the COVID-19, during the PKP in the last few months, we have seen this happened a lot of indigenous, you know, communities barring their kampong. You know, they don't want any outsiders to come in, including, you know, any people with political influence and etc. So how do we, you know, help these communities, you know, without, like I said, without imposing, you know, our influences? And also how to sustain, for example, if we already gained their trust, how do we move on to another project tanpa mereka feel that they are being abandoned? And yeah, I think those are really critical points from my view. Yeah.
So, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, and good afternoon to everyone. I came in a bit early for the next session, so Sri has invited me. So it's such a topic that very relevant to the work that I'm doing. So my name is Rohana. I'm from the Penang Women's Development Corporation. I'm one of the directors of, I sit on the board of director. And the area that I'm involved is that I'm the chairperson of the Gender Responsive Participatory Budgeting, which is under the Department of Gender Inclusiveness. So this, the discussion just now was very relevant to the work that we are doing with the community. So gender responsive participatory budgeting is a tool in which you hold accountability for the public institution to recognize that lain kelompok keperluan berbeza. different people, different needs. When the planners and design of this public institution look at every project through this lens, different people, different needs, you will see that that the impact or the benefit, the beneficiaries of this program would be the people. So it started with the PPR in Jalan Sungai. You're invited, to come and have a look. And also PPR in Sungai Ampang, and it has gone further to the part that the city council, so here's the most important part, the institution that should buy into it should be those with budget. So work with your local government. My recommendation to you will be, number one, all the civil societies, make sure you have a say during the budget plan. Ask your city council to have a dialogue. So that's how Penang starts, we have two city council. City council starts the dialogue. And then they will then announce the budget. Then look at the budget announcement and see how much of that is for the community and which program. And then equip yourself with the tools of participatory budgeting and go and work with the community. To your point about committee lacking the trust, the minute you go into the committee with the money, with the sponsors who has the money, okay? Precisely. Then you give them, then you recognize their leaders, you train their leaders to hold focus group discussion. You train the leaders, have them accountable. Then you have 8 categories of focus group discussion. Children, teens, boys, girls, men, women, senior citizens, OKU. 8 categories. You take all of their input and ask them to prioritize, because duit is limited, and what the city council want to spend or the state want to spend on them. Ask them to prioritize. And then go to your partners and show this is what the committee asked. Then you go back to the committee, very important to close the loop, for trust, for respect. Go back to the committee and inform them, you have prioritized like this, and they are going to do this and this project, and tell when they're going to do it. Then have a big thing, call the people together. Somebody brought about the makan-makan kan? Oh, very important. You know how to attract them? Children. Children art contest. Children this, children that. And then for the women, you can have maybe cooking competition. And then for the men, something else. So a lot of this for the committee. Mesti ada this bringing the committee together. So when they see that you are focusing on them, you're listening to them, and you bring the money with you and the public institution and inform them what's going to happen, we have been very happy with the result. Now, the best part about it is that it has gone one step further and provide an economic opportunity, because we have what we call contract masyarakat. The cleaning of that area is given to the committee. Can you imagine? They are responsible. First of all, they have a choice about colour apa. The whole PPR ni, colour apa dia nak colour. And then they have their own committee, and they are the one who goes round. So Penang has a gender inclusiveness policy, and therefore we have been able to institutionalize this at the local government and also at the state government. Thank you so much for listening.
I will try. I want to add a few things that Dr. Rohana mentioned. Actually, the process that was shared, the different group doing the FDG and all that themselves, the penduduk, is part of the capacity building of leaders, local leaders, which is important. Sebab, for example, sekarang, siapa sini, this is a grassroots assembly, but actually the real grassroots are not here. So if we had known, and we have to facilitate them to come here, to be in this space, because this is actually their space. Ini adalah ruang untuk mereka. Kita ada sahabat-sahabat kita daripada urban farming. So urban farming saya rasa yang Persatuan Blind Association dan persatuan daripada penduduk Section 6 Shah Alam kan. Okey, ni grassroots. Yang lain adalah facilitating NGOs. Kita mahukan akan datang ketua-ketua, ya, perempuan dan lelaki, ya, wanita dan lelaki, dua-dua datang participate sendiri dan bercakap sendiri experience dia. Sebenarnya kalau kita umpamanya dengan Penang, kalau kita cakap awal-awal, PWDC or Penang Council, dua-dua council will have some kind of budget to bring them to this place to speak for themselves, ya. So saya rasa building, membina kapasiti penduduk ataupun ketua-ketua penduduk. Jeffrey mentioned about the challenges, ya, tadi untuk unity. PWDC went through a long process, ya, proses yang Datin Rohana share tadi. Datuk, ya, Datuk no. Datuk Rohana share tadi bermula di tahun 2008. Yeah, the first 2012, sorry 2012. 2012 dah 8 tahun, ya, baru dapat ke tu. Tapi kita dah dapat tahun 2013-14 kita dah dapat meningkatkan kesedaran bahawa mereka ada kapasiti untuk mengambil kontrak masyarakat tersebut. Jadi kontrak masyarakat tersebut sudah bermula 2013-2014. Sudah lama, ya. Sudah agak lama dan ini dapat membina kepimpinan di peringkat grassroots, ya, di peringkat akar umbi sendiri. Sesuatu yang boleh jadi inspirasi kepada yang lain. Dan saya rasa urbanis, ya, selain daripada forum-forum macam ni, satu lagi action yang you can invest, ya. Ini satu investment adalah peer learning. Peer learning antara persatuan penduduk. Jadi peer learning ataupun pembelajaran di peringkat sesama peers bukan saja untuk profesional. Peer learning needs to be at the grassroots level. Ini yang banyak kita tak invest. So saya rasa itu satu maybe kalau boleh dijadikan satu resolusi daripada Sydney untuk Kementerian Urbanis satu program peer learning, dan kita boleh buat peer learning antara penduduk di persatuan penduduk di Subang Jaya dengan Penang dan sebagainya, di mana ada sini, ya. Okey, terima kasih. Sorry, tak banyak pula.
Saya ada nak ulas sikit. Okey, yang pertama berkenaan dengan macam mana kita nak tangani bila mana golongan orang asli ni semua dia tutup, dia tak bagi kita bantu dia. Okey, first saya nak ulas sikit. Golongan B40 ni ada mentaliti dia tersendiri, macam orang asli lain, PPR lain, flat lain. So dia punya mentaliti lain, environment dia lain. Kita tak boleh nak anggap golongan B40 ni semua macam ni, tak. So tak semua orang B40 ni dia bangga menerima bantuan. Of course dia malu, kita ambil gambar apa semua. Dan kita ambil gambar tu KPI, of course saya faham. Tapi so bagi saya cara nak menangani itu, the one way is buat program lah. Contoh pergi kampung orang asli, kita belajar buat craft. So dia pun dapat link dia. Jadi sambil tu kita bagi bantuan pada dia. Kalau kita datang semata-mata nak bagi bantuan, dia nak laut. And then second thing, kita nak kumpulkan ketua-ketua pada penempatan itu sendiri. Okey, saya sebagai mewakili Persatuan Pengurusi Penduduk ni, Persatuan Penduduk Seksyen 6. Okey, masalah ketua-ketua kat tempat saya ni, bila macam nak pergi ke contoh tempat macam ni, pertama masalah transport. Diorang akan fixing, buat apa nak pergi jauh-jauh, buat apa aku nak cakap jauh-jauh, tak dapat apa pun. Dan satu lagi golongan yang macam ni, dia buat a lot of thing. Kerja aku pun tak habis, buat apa aku nak sembang-sembang ni. First thing first, kena ada bagi dia kesedaran lah, kena bagi dia info. Kenapa kita buat benda ni, dan kita kena bagi dia sedar, benda ni untuk dia, bajet ni pun untuk dia. Macam saya sendiri pun, saya in charge kebun. Ramai yang bagi alasan, saya tak larat nak berkebun lah, tak ada masa, tak larat apa semua. Dan saya cakap, bajet ni, bajet community, bajet you all, I pemegang amanah. Rugilah kalau you all tak involve. So daripada situ, I tarik diorang, menyebabkan diorang masuk lah. So first thing first is pendedahan lah.
Okay, I'd like to comment on Datuk Rohana. I think participatory budgeting It's so very important. Only thing is Penang is very lucky to have PwC. You know, because PwC is a very trusted sort of NGO to the Penang government as well. So the element of trust is there. But in, say, Selangor, who are the trusted NGOs that the local council work with? So, of course, they have to prove themselves that they are doing well. So, it was very impressive. If you talk about gender participatory budgeting, it is Penang who started it. But beyond that, even one of their Aduns, Kai Lun, he actually conducted a program called Wang Kita, Hak Kita, right? So I went over there. It was like an election. You know? They all try to pitch for their project. They have allocated a certain amount, and then rows of people. It's like election, you know, voted for which project they wanted. It gives the B40 community a sense of hak is their right. So that was a capacity building effort. But fundamentally, we've been trying to do that. We also have used your work, hak kita, this and that. For us to be empowered, it is first of all of information. The council need to be open. So under open data, they should adopt and say, these are the things that we want to prioritize. We have worked with local councils for over 5-6 years on participatory budgeting. The first thing we told them is, you have excluded the poor. Why? Because you're holding it on a weekday. They cannot come on a weekday. So one of the years, they make it into a weekend on Sunday. Now it's back on the weekday, right? So before you go for a budget hearing, you must be given how you have spent the money, what was your priorities last year, how much you have spent. Skimpy. What was given is very, not enough for you to give a feedback. And for participatory budgeting, they will just get everyone to sit together and say, what would you like to be included in the budget? No? Then after that, they sort of let you talk, and that's the end. You never get a feedback whether it goes in as well. We taught participatory budgeting to one Adun, and she went down on the ground, presented the whole thing. This is my constituency, these are the exact needs from the stakeholders. It never got incorporated. So I think the implementation part of participatory budgeting, local council have to look at it very seriously. We had our public meeting on Friday. The budget is passed on Tuesday. That is just a cosmetic public dialogue. So I think as NGOs and as community leaders, we must understand more about participatory budgeting. The whole priority for the year is done on that. I think in this sense, Penang should come and inspire more local councils. Actually, in fact, how do you actually operationalize it? That will help a lot. Thank you.
Ini penting ya, saya buat point ini ya. Kita Penang ni, we did not arrive here, just arrive, no. We started, so the Penang 2011, a group of NGO, macam you all tahu, jumpa Chief Minister. At that time was Chief Minister Lim Guan Eng. Minta dia, you said that it is important inclusiveness, tu semua ketua menteri cakap macam tu kan, every state kan. You said like that, so now you put the money where it counts and set up an organisation. So then YB kata okay, dia kasih 1.5 million at that time. So the first step is to go and search for sponsors. You have to lobby to the mayors. And there we have to say, at that time we have 2 women mayors lah. Now the current Datuk Sri Maimunah, and then another one for Seberang Perai, and then for Datuk Sri for Datuk Pattaya. But the exco is our current minister, Wabi Chow Kun Yao. So we talk to them about if it matters to you that no one is left behind, you must adopt a system, a methodology, you tak boleh cakap aja. What is your methodology kan nak sampai ke sana? Apakah strukturnya? Dan yang penting sekali, mana duitnya? So you lobby first, the people with this public, okay? This work is slow. Lepas tu dah dapat agreement, kena pergi to the community pula. Which community will be receptive? Which community will want to be developed? Which community yang tak nak bantuan? And you will find that many of them, actually mula-mula tu diorang dah biasa kan, handout. But when you talk to them about making an impact in their own community, I tell you, diorang betul bersama. So 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, City Council. Baru datang 2019, State Policy. So jangan give up. You go and talk. You go and advocate. So you all punya kerja ni, advocate dulu. Dan do come to us. We all very happy to share. YB Lee Kayun punya project kan, we all menang dekat IOIC di Barcelona. We all pergi dengan dia. Penang got one of the top 3 of recognition. So the journey is there. I'm not saying ini senang, but if you all committed kan untuk penyertaan rakyat, bajet penyertaan rakyat, this is for the grassroots, this is for the people you're advocating. Marilah we can share. Kita orang very willing to do any workshop untuk you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk. Yeah, thank you, Datuk, for the very inspiring. And then actually our discussion just now pun kita dah touch juga on action plan, which some of it later we will bring this action plan after the Malaysia Urban Forum. We will work towards macam mana how kita nak involve this grassroots punya community. And then I think we have come to the end of the session. So and action plan, yeah.
Assalamualaikum. Bismillah. I wanted to listen more and speak less. So tak jadi pula saya punya plan. Okay. So yeah, I'm an urban farmer. We've been involved in urban farming for about almost 6 years. I keep saying 5 years, but actually 6 years now. Pinggir Taman Tun, Kampung Sungai Pecala. So we are very, very accessible actually. Memang senang sangat nak sampai ke tempat kita lah. I wasn't sure what to say because, to be honest, I have lived among B40 when I studied at University of Malaya, but I have not worked with B40 throughout my time here. We have always worked through other people. So, for example, we work with Gift Foundation in Teluk Gadong, where we raise funds and we sent fresh produce to Teluk Gadung, and then Gift Foundation was the facilitating NGO that went to the community and said, hey, we've got 50 kilos of fresh produce. For those who haven't eaten sayur for a few months, come and take. Okay? And similarly, we work with Kutanayo Foundation. So the model that Dr. Jeffrey had presented, that's pretty much what we do. And the reason why this became so natural for us is because we are urban farmers. We have to manage our farm. We can't do everything. And I think that's the first point. We have to be very focused in what we do and achieve it right. That way, we can get results. So a services, and I'm not an NGO, by the way, we're a social enterprise. So a social enterprise or NGO that provides services, focus on services, and let the facilitating NGO facilitate. They are closer to the ground. So for example, now we want to look for communities where we have a fund to teach them urban farming. Our first methodology of doing this is to approach people like Gift Foundation, people like MyPJ, and say, you know, we have a fund, can we work with you? Not to go to the ground, because if I go to the ground, I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't know who to talk to. I wouldn't know, you know, if I go to Pukeliling Flats, who do I speak to? I don't know, you know, for example. So yeah, that's a bit of feedback from me. I don't have much else to say other than the fact that urban farming is a new agenda, I think, for the government, if I'm not mistaken. But it's not a new activity. Anyone who grows food in their backyard is doing some level of urban farming. And our vision, I might as well share it now. My vision is to get 1 in 10 families to grow food. So it's a very big vision. Inshallah, I reach it. And you're all more than welcome to partner with us, urban farmers. Even like Lestari Alam, we're all together. Permaculture Association of Malaysia, Lestari Alam, we're all together in this. Yeah. If we sort out our food security, I think everything else will eventually fix itself. Yeah. So I'll pass on to Munib.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Munib bin Yusuf again from Urban Hijau. Been listening in. A lot of good things have been said over this time. I mean, right from the beginning, some of the things that we've been hearing from our dear Jeffrey here, as well as others. Like, for example, networking. Integration of different activities rather than going solo and helping each other. I think one of the things that actually lacks even within our own community of permaculturists is awareness of who is doing what. Sometimes we are looking at case studies or examples from some other countries, and right next door there is a small, activity happening and people don't know. So actually the information about what is happening in each locality is actually quite often missing. Like, I would like to perhaps go in KL, go in PJ, and find out how many urban farms are there. How many people know how many farms are in? How many people knew that we have a farm in Sungai Penchala? Like 2 or 3 people. So simple thing like this, it's not far away. This is not, some 2 hours drive. This is next to Wanutama, very, very central. So finding who is doing what in the locality, in the community, that information is really lacking. So we are also hoping that through the Permaculture Association Malaysia, when it comes to the urban farming and sustainable movement, we'll bring together that information, present it, and help those people who are doing already to succeed. There's no point opening 10 other organizations and everybody wants to start their own small little organization and move ahead. We have to find out who are already been acting, who have been doing work for years, identifying the key issues, and get them to become the leaders. Get them to do the workshops and training. If they need, for example, help in connecting with the local government, get these people. So finding those people is key, rather than you just find another new leader in the community. That person doesn't have enough experience. They just kitchen. You see, as many of you also have highlighted, it has come out a few times, but not much attention has been given to it, which is time. These people who deserve help, need help, they don't have time to participate in workshops. Even if you give it to them for free, it's already sponsored, they don't have time because they're so busy in their day-to-day issues. So really understanding exactly what is happening in that community. Like I have a good friend of mine, I would consider him one of the main grassroots champion in Batang Berjuntai, Kumaran. Every other day I call him, oh, what are you doing? I need to, bury somebody. There's somebody who has committed suicide, or I need to go and lodge a police report, or there's some break-in here. Really busy with the real community issues where they don't have time to go for a workshop, they don't have time to bring out leaders from their time, they're just busy with their things. So facilitating those NGOs who are already present there, all activities which are already there, connecting those people together, that starts a much faster movement rather than bringing in leaders or creating new leaders. Identifying, I think that's one of the core issues. Finding, I think perhaps urbanists can be one of the champions, like talk about urban farms or other activities which are there. If you just want to find who is doing what, it's sometimes quite difficult to do. I mean, these people who do work, most often they don't even put up a website, they don't put up Facebook social ads or whatever information on their Instagram telling people this is what we're doing, they just do it. So connecting that and going back to core things. I mean, yes, sometimes, yes, it's very important to get the communities' say into what they want, but sometimes the communities also don't know what exactly the core problems are. So while we cannot address income directly, understanding maybe sometimes their solution is very simple. Like for example, another case in Terengganu, there were people who were very interested in school who wanted to do farming. And they said, by the time I'll go for the budget, by the time I'll get the money, I'll already be transferred to another school. So then an outside player came in, okay, how much really you need? It's just a small amount. Okay, then here's the money, let's do it. And then became successful. So sometimes for them to go through that bureaucratic, pathway to actually get access to resources, to connections, is just not worth it because they're going to take so much time. So assisting them in a way which is appropriate is another way of connecting. I mean, there's much can be said about the whole sustainability field, but I think the key is, again, understanding the community, putting out the information which is relevant to those communities, easily accessible, and then slowly letting the community grow. It's not going to happen. There are definitely going to be champions amongst us who can be used as inspiration. And again, here with the Gift Foundation, that's what we're doing. The first step is we give them food. Some of them, they have never seen a good pak choy, good sawi for so long. They're like, wow, it looks good, it looks fresh. So you just inspire them. Like, would you like to do it? Then find out the people who are interested. Then get the funding. Okay, here's the funds, here's the training. Why don't you do it yourself now? So that's the next step. And then they can actually become empowered to do. But inspiration is, again, something that's very lacking in many of these cases. So information, inspiration, and finding the local specific issues, connecting the dots. I think that will definitely have much impact in future.
Can I add to that? Where you're saying about wanting actions, right? I think number one is for ministries as well as state and local authorities to believe in NGOs. That the NGOs are the organizations that will link community with government agencies. The NGOs, and I disagree with the deputy minister, when he said all of you are intellectuals higher up, and that you don't find the real community here, but we are representing. We go there every day. We work with these people. We understand, and like what you said, the real community cannot be represented here because they're so busy. If we organize it weekends, perhaps, but this is a weekday, and to come all the way to Kuala Lumpur, such an expensive place, such a place that they don't know, is going to be very prohibitive. So having representatives of NGOs at these kind of think tanks is a way to get to and through the people. And I find that it's like what Jeffrey said, so many NGOs. Let's get a database. Every local authority have a database where NGOs are, what do NGOs do, and where do they work, where do they focus on, you know. And then the local authority and the NGOs themselves, once we have this data, we can then work together. You know, we can partner each other. Dr. Jeffrey and I and Lestari Alam, we found each other, and we're embarking on, you know, joint projects, joint. Let's not how to say, challenge one another. No, but we partner one another. You know, we're not racing for who does best, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the community that benefits. And at the end of the day, it's the sustainability factor, the economic factor that we're trying to reach at, you know, those goals. So the first thing I would think is for NGOs, like women's organization, anyone, you know, the disabled organization to really be given the empowerment and to be by the local authority. That means we become the perantaraan lah, all right? So then, okay, we are the ones who are going to learn about, for example, participatory budgetary process. We are the ones who are going to go to the people and say, hey, you know, we could work this. And we become the spokesperson for the people to the state or to the local authority for the budgets. So if there is a trust in us, I think there is a mutual benefit, because local authority, I'm sorry to say, even Kuala Lumpur has only one officer for LA21. You know, and most local authorities have very few officers who are concentrating on LA21. Whereas these kind of projects, these kind of activities can be done or performed by the NGOs effectively, releasing the local authority organization from having to do all these kind of things themselves, right? And empowering NGOs to do it. I think we can do it better, because most of us are very experienced in that. We know our own fields of expertise, and we can empower the people. So not only that, but I believe that at the end of the day, the total budget of the local authority may be reduced or on this kind of activities, which they can actually use for other things like maintenance. Okay, so community projects, like many of us, we then connect also with the private sector, right? Through CSR projects, we would be the best. So getting community involvement, I would think that through the NGOs responsible. And I tell you, I've never heard of NGO that is unscrupulous. Many of us have got good hearts. We want to do something for the environment, for the people, you know, and therefore there must be this trust. I know that, for example, KPKT has set an example by pointing Persatuan Lestari Alam to take the lead, the NGO to take the lead in getting urban farming, for example, yeah, in the city. So this is a step forward, and I believe that there's so many other NGOs involving so much other good work, but there need to be a database so that we can all share, we're all aware of it. And like, you know, Persatuan Penduduk, they're aware of such an NGO that can actually teach them about participatory budgetary planning, about urban farming, you know, they can have. So again, being, I would say, being transparent in sharing database, right? This should be the greatest action, the immediate action, I think, that should be done or should be undertaken. I rest my case.
No, I was about to speak about students as well, because most of my members are 70% are university students. So I just wanted to give an example. We are right now actually embarking on a project in Post Lanai in interior of Pahang to set up permaculture, not permaculture, tapi agroforestry gardens with the indigenous community yang has been relocated, sebab their village was submerged by the dam that was built by the Pahang state. So coming to these communities, we connected with the youth first. That is the easiest person that you can connect to communities, you connect with the youth, because youth are easy to talk to, and primarily because we are youth as well, they are easy to talk to. So when we talk to the older community, they will say, tanya anak I, apa yang mereka mau? What do they want for their anak-anak mereka punya future? So we have spoken to the youth, then youth has started to mobilize themselves to go to one rumah sini ke kampung sini. So that is how we mobilize. We infiltrate to the youth punya segment of the community, and then it works easier rather than talking to the old ones. I would think that's from my side. And like I said, university students as well are really critical right now. There's a really massive youth movement right now in Malaysia. We have to, exploit that. This is our time. Ini masa kita, betul tak? So, yes. And I really, for example, you guys came from Johor, ke? No, UITM. So I have like few friends who's coming in from Johor in the next few days, coming over for the youth assembly tomorrow to participate in this. And it is really, important to give space for youth to menggerakkan community juga. Sebab, they are the future, and in the next 10 years, what's going to happen? We have like climate crisis and everything coming at the same time. The youth are eager to change, so we have to give them the space, and harapnya NGO akan start by mobilizing the youth. So yeah, and also the women groups as well. I think it's really critical to possibly the next time to have them inside the grassroots punya assembly rather than separately, because yeah, yeah. Yes.
You don't discriminate. You differentiate.
Yes, correct. They have to be together. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Naini, I think now we ought to have add another one. Assembly for the elderly. Yeah, I will lead it, man. But I'm glad that as an elderly, as a warga mas, Nadia, I'm happy to note that we've got the youth. I'm happy that the youth are taking over, because like Dr. Jeffrey and I, past 64, we're quite worried. And what we do is for the future. So I'm glad that the future is here with us.
I would also like to add suggestions. I feel that LA21 or Sustainable Development Goals is actually cannot be operated in silos. So one transformative change would be to get local councils to set up a SDG or LA21 department directly reporting to the mayor. Right now, most of the time it is under the Perancang. So they look at it from the lens of Perancang, and the other people don't have ownership at all. That's one thing that we have. The other thing is about top-down, bottom-up approach. We talk a lot about it, but implementing it is not so easy. So in Selangor, the EXCO have a portfolio called Caring Government, and they are supposed to help us and empower us. But we have to organize ourselves under Caring Community. So we have a platform called Community Prihatin, Kerajaan Prihatin, whereby it connects. But the middle ground is the PBTs. So while we try to get the trust of PBTs, the EXCO, a few words can help to open up the path. And of course, there is a culture change that is needed. The PBTs have a guardian mentality, not a partner mentality. If you get this right, I work with you. No, these are my rules. You break it, sorry, I can't help you. But instead of coming around and say, together, let's find a creative solution. So I think that's one mentality that have to change, and perhaps it can be brought out to the conclusion that no, this is what we need. We need a proactive, partnering kind of PBTs, and not someone that just put blockades. All right, thank you.
Okay, sebagai kesimpulannya, bagi saya memang networking tu kena kukuh antara grassroots dan juga PBT dan juga siapa-siapa yang berkaitan lah. Sebagai contoh, saya rasa macam mana kita nak memperkukuhkan lagi hubungan era ini adalah dengan penggunaan teknologi. Okay, sebagai contoh, macam di Brickfield, kita menggunakan, kadang-kadang bila kita ada assembly ataupun meeting, bukan semua orang berpeluang untuk bercakap. Jadi selalunya kita himpunkan semua wakil-wakil penduduk, wakil-wakil kesatuan agama dan juga wakil-wakil NGO ni dalam satu grup WhatsApp. Tapi kita tak biarkan setiap NGO, kesatuan penduduk semua ni bersendirian. Maknanya ada juga wakil-wakil daripada DBKL, maksudnya dari pelbagai jabatan yang bertanggungjawab sekiranya ada sebarang aduan. Ada juga wakil-wakil dari Kementerian Kesihatan, Alam Flora dan sebagainya. Dan setiap hari ada saja isu yang dibangkitkan oleh wakil-wakil ni sekiranya ada berlaku permasalahan. Dan setiap kali isu tu timbul, dengan cepat kita akan dapat respon daripada pihak berwajib. Dan selalunya dalam masa kalau perkara yang dilaporkan itu agak serius, dalam masa 1 jam selalunya kita akan dapat feedback status dengan apa yang telah isu yang telah dibangkitkan tersebut. Dan daripada sinilah sekiranya ada sebarang pertukaran, contoh ketua balai berubah, datuk bandar berubah, selalunya daripada perbincangan di dalam grup inilah kita akan buat suatu meeting dan kita akan hantar memorandum ataupun surat untuk pertemuan dengan mereka yang baru dilantik untuk menjaga kawasan tersebut supaya dapat kita sambung lagi engagement tersebut. Contohnya macam Datuk Bandar berubah baru-baru ni, kita buat satu surat untuk pertemuan dengan Datuk Bandar supaya Datuk Bandar dapat datang dan kita jelaskan apa yang telah kita lakukan di Brickfield, apa yang kurang, apa yang sepatutnya dibuat dan sebagainya. Dan Datuk Bandar yang baru dapat meneruskan apa yang telah dilakukan oleh Datuk Bandar yang sebelumnya. Begitu juga dengan ketua polis dan sebagainya. Kita akan buat, semuanya kita akan buat pertemuan demi pertemuan dengan mereka supaya engagement tu dapat diteruskan. Dan alhamdulillah wakil-wakil macam wakil daripada pejabat Datuk Bandar sendiri pun ada dalam grup tersebut. Jadinya setiap kali berlakunya isu-isu berbangkit, untuk penyelesaian yang cepat, kita akan laporkan ke dalam grup tersebut dan akan dapat respon daripada mereka. Dan setelah mereka melaksanakan apa yang sepatutnya mereka laksanakan, mereka akan laporkan semula kepada kita. Kemudian kita akan buat lagi satu perjumpaan bagaimana untuk kita plan untuk perubahan yang ataupun tindakan jangka panjang untuk kita majukan kepada pihak berkenaan. Okay, sebagai contoh, contohnya isu pembangunan di Brickfield. So dulu-dulu masa tahun 2013, 2012, isu pembangunan di Brickfield ni apabila masuk, penduduk Brickfield termasuklah kita NGO Blind ni, kita tak tahu apa development yang sedang berlaku sekarang di Brickfield. Tiba-tiba je orang datang pecah pavement yang menyebabkan komuniti saya susah nak bergerak dari satu tempat ke satu tempat. Dengan adanya grup seumpama ini, kita akan tanya dalam grup tu, dan bila kita dapat tahu siapa yang bertanggungjawab terhadap development tersebut, kita boleh buat langkah yang seterusnya. Dan alhamdulillah untuk setiap development yang akan berlaku di Brickfield, contractors, konsultan mesti datang buat engagement dengan penduduk setempat dan akan mengambil kira keperluan setiap komuniti yang ada di tempat tersebut. Sebagai contoh, kalau dari segi development, pembinaan, maksudnya sekarang kita ada projek River of Life. So River of Life ni melibatkan banyak pembangunan yang melibatkan siar kaki. Jadi di Brickfield ni memang digelar sebagai bandar mesra OKU penglihatan sebab ramai komuniti blind di situ. Jadi untuk memenuhi keperluan blind dekat situ, developer dan juga konsultan selalunya akan work together dengan rukun tetangga. Dan rukun tetangga memang dia menghormati setiap wakil-wakil yang ada di dalam rukun tetangga tersebut. Jadi bila datang kepada isu blind, rukun tetangga akan membuatkan satu pertemuan dengan developer yang terlibat. Bila tiba untuk wakil penjaja, isu-isu penjaja, rukun tetangga akan menjadi orang tengah untuk menemukan kita dengan pihak yang berkenaan. Maksudnya rukun tetangga itu sendiri tidak boleh menyelesaikan masalah untuk setiap kelompok, sebab mungkin komuniti rukun tetangga tu tidak berada di dalam kelompok tertentu, jadi mereka pun kurang faham. Mungkin dia orang faham tapi tidak sedalam-dalamnya isu-isu yang dibangkitkan ataupun yang berbangkit yang menjadi halangan dan cabaran kepada komuniti tersebut. Jadi melalui komuniti ataupun wakil-wakil NGO, wakil-wakil penduduk inilah mereka cuba untuk memenuhi keperluan setiap penduduk agar Brickfield ini dikenali sebagai sebuah bandar yang mesra kepada semua, bukan sahaja OKU Penglihatan, kepada persatuan penjaja, persatuan agama, sebab di Brickfield ni kita ada banyak juga persatuan agama macam persatuan Buddha dan juga persatuan surau dan masjid juga ada di sana. Jadi bagi saya selain daripada engagement yang kita buat secara fizikal, secara teknologi ini akan lebih lagi membantu untuk mempercepatkan lagi proses untuk kita mendapatkan sesuatu yang lebih baik untuk komuniti kita di tempat tersebut. Terima kasih.
Okay. I want to ask a question rather than like sharing my thoughts. Like, how youth gain the trust to NGOs and authority? Like nowadays, the youth actually like dah bagi tahu they want this and they want that, and then their voice actually tak diterima sometimes, and like they think like, oh, a youth voice are not that important. It's rather than important like the elderly voice are much more important. Like nowadays, like we the youth actually like we're going to maybe one day rule the world, rule the nation, anything. So I think, and then and our voice and the youth itself, they opt to be in silence. They don't want to like voice it out. There's no one like to dia orang rasa nak percaya itself. So dia orang tak percaya anything. So how can the youth itself trust the NGO or the authority? That's my question. Okay. Sorry, that's so intense, alright? Okay. I think that's all.
Ada youth assembly kan? How to get okay. Satu, you tak boleh bergerak individu. You have to work as an organised group. Because if you work as an organised group, then you have voices, not your individuals. You are not an NGI, non-governmental individual. You see? Youth also form an NGO. Yeah, so you can form an NGO. You already can join existing youth NGO, or you joined NGO that are available, and then you can be the youth voice or the youth section and all that, which is quite common in many NGO. And I think siapa yang kata youth tak important tu mungkin tidak ada vision ke depan, kurang vision ke depan. Kerana investment kepada orang muda, ya, youth kita adalah sangat penting, ya, dan creating awareness sebab macam SDG ni 2030, entahkan saya hidup lagi ke tidak, tak tahulah kan. Jadi you all kalau ikut logik dan kebiasaan, youth akan hidup lebih panjang lagi daripada kita. Jadi memang penting, dan sebab tu umpamanya salah satu daripada awal lagi Malaysian Urban Forum dah ada Youth Assembly. Youth Assembly bukan kali pertama ni, yang lepas pun dah ada. Recognition of the youth important. I think macam juga women, macam juga grassroots, macam juga other stakeholders, kita buat muka tebal lah, pergi je cakap, ya, get involved, you know, and volunteer yourself as well. I think, you know, I'm not answering everything that you want to hear, but I think those are untuk kami yang biasa dengan aktiviti sosial dan volunteer, tu adalah jalan-jalan masuk. Dan kita volunteer, apa yang kita tak nak take over the leadership awal-awal. Kita tunjukkan kebolehan kita tunjukkan apa yang kita boleh volunteer pada mereka. Dan lama ada space for you. Dan kebanyakan organisasi nakkan youth involved. Cuma di Malaysia, sorry, agak kritikal. Definisi belia tu agak challenging. Ya, sampai 40 tahun. Kalau ikut United Nation, ya, ikut international standard, saya biasa dengan United Nation, Bangsa-Bangsa Bersatu, 18 to 25. At most 18 to 28. Itu the youth, ya. Bukan 40 tahun dan 40 tahun yang jadi leader. Kita cari orang yang muda yang jadi leader. Ya, okay, so
saya ingin tambah.
Can I add one? Yeah, if youth wants to be empowered, you could work with one of the facilitating NGOs that will incorporate you straight away into a project. So you need to have a focus area that you need to work on. The other thing is, if you are working in Petaling Jaya have a youth council. The councillors are all made of youth. So you could also get empowerment through there, and we see how much they can cooperate. So there's a lot of ways you can actually get in. So that is what we mean by intergenerational leadership, you know, where the established leaders, the older leaders, will pass the momentum over to you all.
I think using, you know, social media is really critical. I think for our generation, that's the platform that we use to speak to others. Try to build a community online. See how it goes first, because you know, that's the easiest way that we can do. That's the bare minimum that we can do. Yeah, and then try to find what principles are you on? You know, what foundations are you on? What is your grounding principles, for example, for your organization? So that needs to be known as well, and how to organize yourselves, for example, how to pick a leader, you know, where do you put your database? Yeah, you need to know that as well. And there are a lot of, like Jeffrey and, you know, the rest have said, there are counselors that you can also come to me after this, we can talk a bit, you know, how to, you know, set all these elements up. These are really critical, you know, things to make a movement, you know, work fluidly. Yeah, so, yeah, I think that's all.
So, saya nak tambah, okay, untuk berkenaan youth, sebab saya pun juga anak muda. So, saya pun pernah melalui juga fasa macam anda semua, kena air suara, kena tolak buta-buta. Kita tengah present ni, belum habis lagi. Tak apa saya. I can feel you, so I tahu. So, my advice is, first kita kena tengok apa yang kita nak suarakan tu reachable or not. Sebab sometimes orang akan soal, how, cost, whatsoever. So, you have to prepare yourself. Satu. Yang kedua, you beri nama kami daripada YAP. Sudah bawa terus discrimination YAP. You know, so you kena change about that lah. I know you bawa you punya NGO, YAP, I know. Tapi jangan terlalu menampakkan you diskriminasi. Kita ni seorang orang muda, no. You have to know lah. And then second thing, don't give up. Sebab dalam yang menolak kita, ada yang akan mendengar suara kita.
Okay, so I think masa pun is dah pukul towards the end lah. So just to wrap up a few action that yang I boleh highlight from the discussion is that the first yang banyak kita discuss tadi is about the capacity building. Okay, capacity building not only for the grassroots community but also the local government. Yeah, we have to start capacity building for them as well. And then the second one is highlighted by Mr. Jeffrey to set up direct SDG and MUF2020 direct under mayor, which that can be dia. And then also proactive PVT that will not put blockade to the suggestion, will open to the input from the community. Yeah, I think Sri also mentioned about peer learning from the grassroots, which the grassroots group can learn from each other, so that in that way capacity building for them as well, and something to be invested in lah. We will take note on that on behalf of KPJT and Buddhist Pleasure. So actually this session also is a capacity building for me myself for urbanists to understand the grassroots community and how do we not to say buang lah, how do we reduce the gap between community, government and NGO. Yeah, I think that's it. So lepas ni kita akan ada Women Assembly pukul 2. So we invite everyone. But before that kita nak ambil, boleh tak kita nak ambil 1:30, sorry. Before that boleh tak kita nak ambil gambar group photo sekejap? Oh yeah, sorry, before I forget, siapa yang kita nak elect to speak at the closing ceremony of Malaysia Labour Forum on behalf of Grassroots punya group? Ada.
Can I speak in Malay? I'm comfortable. Saya faham maksudnya semua. Saya lebih selesa cakap bahasa Melayu. So, okay, pertama sekali terima kasih kepada pihak penganjur, pada NGO yang terlibat dan juga kepada semua yang hadir di sini kerana memberi peluang kepada kami untuk menyuarakan dan berkongsi permasalahan dan juga keadaan yang berlaku di tempat kami lah. So, diharapkan forum sebegini akan diteruskan lagi lah dalam diperbaiki mana yang kurang, mana yang baik kita ambil, mana yang kurang kita tepikan lah. So thank you so much.